Hello everyone, my name is Tiffany and this is my channel, Who's Your Handmaid. Thank you so much for stopping by today. Today's video is all about Project Dress-A-Girl. If that sounds interesting to you, stick around. If you are new to my channel, welcome. Thank you so much for stopping by. I hope that you will consider subscribing before you leave today. I would love to welcome you into the sewing community and get to know you better. Thank you so much to each one of my friends who are tuning in again today. Thank you so much for spending some of your day with me. It always means so much to me. Give this video a thumbs up and leave a comment down below. Are you participating in Project Dress-A-Girl? Are you sewing up those little dresses here in the month of September? I would love to know. Let me know what patterns you're using down below. I love to chat with you guys. It really makes my week to see those comments come in. So we are talking all about Project Dress-A-Girl today. The amazing Mari from Mari Sews is the mastermind behind this amazing project. She founded this 3 years ago. This is our 3rd year doing Project Dress-A-Girl, and it is such a great effort. It's one of my favorite challenges, if not the favorite challenge of mine for the year. Such a worthy cause. Having a daughter of my own, I get so much out of sewing these little dresses for some little girl that I'll never meet so that she can have a brand new dress for herself. So I'm not going to go into all the details of this project. Mari did a wonderful job in a launch video. I'm going to link it down below. She gives you all the information you're going to need. And there is a lot of info for this project, you guys. There's a lot of guidelines as to what fabric you can use or what pattern you can use, closures, labels, pockets. There's all kinds of guidelines. So do check out her video before you start sewing away. I will link it down below, and check out all the other amazing content creators who are on the vlogging tour this year. There are so many amazing sewists who are jumping on board with this challenge and participating themselves, and they are bringing content to you on the vlogging tour. So I am just one of many out here talking about Project Dress-A-Girl. You probably heard all the info by now. Let's get into my Project Dress-A-Girl endeavor, and that is using one pattern. I'm a little different in that I have a close to home charity that I'm contributing to. So I've cleared this with Mari. I did this last year. She was totally fine with me doing this, finding a local charity. I have a local quilt shop to my area here in Southern Indiana. It's called the Stitching Post. It's in Washington, Indiana, and they do a similar project every year. They've been doing this for the last several years, upwards of 5, I would say. And the owner has created a community effort to sew pillowcase dresses. And there is one pattern, it's a free pattern for this dress, and that's the one that I have used so many times. Last year, I think I sewed 7 dresses last year. I'll pop up some pictures. And this year I have 1 down and more to go, hopefully many more to go. The Stitching Post project lasts to the end of October, so I have a little more time to sew. Project Dress-A-Girl only lasts through September, so I'm gonna be sewing like crazy on these little dresses to try to contribute more. This pattern fits the bill perfectly for Project Dress-A-Girl, and I'm gonna share it with you guys. I'm actually going to do a little sew with me at the end of this video. If you wanna watch it, that's fine. It's just me sewing. Maybe do some sewing of your own and put me on in the background. It's kind of fun to sew with someone. Let me tell you more about this pattern. So it is titled a pillowcase dress. I have not used that in the title of my video because I don't want to lead you astray. This is a simple A-line sundress. It is sleeveless, very minimal sewing, easy. This is beginner friendly. So if you are just beginning on your sewing journey, this one is for you. It is so simple and easy. Why did I not use the pillowcase term? Because I don't want to lead you in the wrong direction in using an actual pillowcase. Back in the day, I believe they were using actual pillowcases to make these dresses. That's not the case for my charity or for Project Dress a Girl. We do not want to be using actual pillowcases. For the most part, pillowcases are thin and silky material. Sometimes they're see-through. They're not very sturdy. So we don't want to be using actual pillowcases. What we do want to be using for fabric is cotton. Your calico cotton, your quilting cotton, that kind of sturdy, robust fabric that's gonna last no matter where this little girl is in the world, that's going to end up with this little dress. Like I mentioned before, it is a free pattern, which is great. But if you go to the link below, which I'm going to cite the source, it comes from Suzanne So Delightful blog, her blog. But like a lot of free patterns, it leaves a little bit to the imagination. So real quick, I'm gonna go over some specs with you. I'm gonna tell you what supplies you need, the measurements real quick, and then I have found some tips and tricks along the way. I'm gonna highlight those. And then, like I said, at the end of the video, I am going to have a little sew with me time. It's about 11 minutes of me sewing up one of these dresses. Obviously, that's fast forwarded a little bit, but it is an easy sew. I can sit down and comfortably sew one of these dresses in under 2 hours. It's very simple. I would chain do them. I'm going to be chain doing them. If I make a seam on one, I'll be making it on another, as long as my thread type is the same. You can get creative with these dresses. You can add whatever kind of embellishments you want. Little pockets are something that I have added to meet the Project Dress a Girl requirements. That's not in the pattern, but you can draw yourself a little square and make you some pockets. I show you in the sew with me actually how I did my little pockets, so we will see that in the sew with me time. Let me show you the dress real quick. So this is the beautiful little dress that I have made. Again, this is from the Stitching Post. What the Stitching Post will do is make up kits. So I have grabbed a kit from the Stitching Post. They give you the fabric and they give you the elastic. There is elastic up here at the neckline on the front and on the back. Very easy to install. You make a casing and slide it through. You do use double fold bias tape on the armholes and as the ties. I used the wide, double fold wide, and I think you can use the smaller one too. It's up to you, however you want to do them. Has a cute little hem here at the bottom, and then, like I said, I've added these little pockets. I have lined mine. I find that's the simplest way to put a pocket on. Just sew them right sides together, turn them outside, and then put them on like that. So this is my little dress. Let me tell you about the supplies that you need. So I'm gonna try to put them up here on the screen as I talk. Pause me, pause me and take a screenshot if you are interested in this pattern, because like I said, those ambiguous instructions, they allude to a size guide on her blog, but it was even hard for me to find. So this is the one that I have figured out myself or within the instructions that the Stitching Post has given us. So here are the supplies that you need. So you do need that cotton fabric. Cotton fabric comes for all of them. This pattern comes in sizes small, medium, and large. For the small size, you need a 24-inch piece of fabric times width of fabric. So you're not cutting it lengthways, you're just gonna leave it the 44 or 45, whatever cotton fabric you found. You do need elastic. For this pattern, you need either 1/2-inch elastic or 3/4-inch elastic. I believe I've used 3/4 in my little dress. For the size small, you need 2 6-inch pieces. And then for that bias binding, you need 2 pieces 30 inches. Moving on to the medium, again, cotton fabric. It needs to be 30 inches times width of fabric. For elastic, 7 inches times 2, so you need 2 of those. And for the bias binding, 36 inches times 2, so you need 2 of those. For the large, again, cotton fabric, 36 inches, so a yard times width of fabric. And then for the elastic, you need 8 inches times 2, so 2 pieces of elastic at 8 inches. And then the bias binding is 38 inches times 2. So I am using store-bought bias binding. You can make your own, of course, if you're comfortable doing that. Bias binding from the store is easy, it's convenient, it's not inexpensive. I've discovered it is quite pricey, but it is convenient for the working mama. So here's my tips for this pattern. These are the ones that I have encountered along the way making all of these little dresses last year and this year. The first tip that I would have is to cut off your selvages. Now I said for each size that it's width of fabric. So when you say width of fabric, that's including the selvages, but I would go ahead and cut those selvages off because your seam allowance is a 1/2 inch and sometimes that's not enough to catch all of your selvage in the seam line. The next tip is to attach those pockets before you start sewing your dress together. So you're going to have a piece of fabric that you essentially make a tube of, you're just gonna sew up one side of it, very simple. But before you do that, I would find center back, center front, and then line up your pockets and attach those while it's just one big piece of fabric that's not sewn together. Trust me, it's a lot easier. I don't do that in the sew along that we're gonna have at the end of this video because I didn't have any fabric with me when I was camping to make those pockets, but word from the wise, just take my word for it. It's easier before you start sewing your dress together. And then for your neckline, you're going to make the casing like this one has right here. So you're gonna fold it over and you're gonna hem it. You're gonna hem it at a 1/4 inch. And then the next measurement that you're gonna fold it over to make that casing depends on what size of elastic you're using. In my notes from last year, I have that if you're using a 1/2 inch elastic, you need to create a casing that is an inch wide here. That allows that 1/2 inch elastic to go in very easily and have room to be able to be inserted. For 3/4 inch elastic, you need an 1.25 inch casing here. That gives you enough room to get that 3/4 inch elastic in there. I went a little bit short on this one. I used 3/4 inch elastic, but my casing was not quite an 1.25 inch, and I wish it was. It was kind of difficult to get that elastic in there, but I made it work. So those are my tips for sewing this pattern. One final note before we get into the sew with me. Again, this is just a fun little sew with me. In no way a tutorial. I'm not going to claim that it's a tutorial. You can sew your little dress with me at the same time. I do walk you through the steps, except for one, my recording of doing this bias tape, putting on this bias tape did not work. So what you do is you just cut your sizes to the specification that I talked about before. You find your center of the armhole, which is out here, and the center of your bias tape, and you start pinning from here out, and then you're just gonna sew it on with a straight stitch. I think I did a 3.0. I did go over this part right here again on each part of the neckline just to give it some stability and a little more sturdiness. So really easy. You don't have to do much manipulation. You don't have to do a lot of stretching. This bias tape is easy to use. So I did leave that part out of my sew with me just because the video was not recording like I needed it to. So again, a super cute little easy, simple A-line sundress to try out for Project Dress a Girl or the little girl in your life. I actually have a picture of Addie in this little dress, and I'll put that in the end after we have done the sew with me portion. If you're not gonna watch the sew with me portion, thank you for watching. Thank you for tuning in. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up and leave a comment down below. I would love to chat with you. Okay, let's sew up this little dress. Okay, let's sew a pillowcase dress, guys. So I'm showing you my fabric here. Right sides together, selvage to selvage. Let's pin it. We're gonna sew the selvage together, and that's gonna make the body of our dress. There, it's all pinned. I'm gonna show you the other end here. That's just on the fold. Don't have to do any sewing over there. So we're gonna sew this with a 1/2 inch seam allowance. I did not have my serger with me or anything to finish the edges, so I'm gonna sew again with a zigzag. So the first stitches that I'm making here are a straight stitch, and then I'll go over it again with zigzag just to finish the edges. There we go. Now we're going to work on our hem. The paperwork says to do to turn it up a 1/2 inch and then turn it up another 1/2 inch. I went with 1 inch. I'm not real sure why I did that, but I did. So I'm hemming here. I'm making my marks with a friction marker, hemming it up to 1 inch hem. Okay, so there we have it hemmed up there at the bottom, and we're going to work on cutting out the armholes. So your pattern will give you armhole pieces that we're going to cut out at the top raw edge. I'm going to show you those pieces. There they are. They look a little weird. Those are for your armholes, so cut out the size that you need. That's what I'm doing here. Then we're going to lay those, like I said, up at the top along the raw edge. Make sure that the curve is facing into the rest of the dress. Think of an armhole curve. That's what we're creating with that little piece. So I'm going to show you this side. Pinned all the way up to the raw edge. And then we're going to cut that out. Okay, we're going to do the other side, so I'm just making sure my armhole stays straight, so I pinned it in a couple places. I'm just securing that armhole there and moving on to the next side, making sure it's straight, showing you that I'm moving on to the next side. I'm going to take that armhole piece again. On one side it will be right side up, and on the other side it will be right side down. So just make sure the curve is going in like an armhole would be. I'll show it to you. There we go. There's the one I've already cut out, and I'm going to cut out the second one. There we go, 2 armholes. Now we're going to work on hemming up the top. All you have to do is hem up that top there. You're going to mark it at a 1/4 inch, fold it down a 1/4 inch, so I'm marking a 1/2 inch. And then how much more you turn it up depends on what kind of elastic you're using. I was using 3/4 inch elastic, so I turned it up 1 1/4 inches total. So I turned it up another inch. So I'm going to do this on both sides. I'm going to make my marks and then hem up both sides of the top there. This creates a nice hemmed neckline. And it's creating the casing for the elastic. Looks like it was really windy that day. I don't remember it being super windy. Maybe sped up like this makes it a little more windy, I don't know. just putting some pins in to secure that. Cotton fabric holds an iron really well, but just to make sure it doesn't fall out, I like to add a few pins. And here we go. Let's sew those down. So you're just going to get kind of close to the edge there, and you're going to sew your casing down with a straight stitch. Make sure to secure your ends on all of these. All of these seams should be secured. And there we go. Okay, I've switched switched locations, guys. I am home now in my own sewing room, so I'm making the pockets. I told you at the beginning that it's easier before you even start sewing your fabric together to do these pockets, but alas, my fabric for the pockets was at home. So what I'm cutting out is some little squares for a patch pocket. I like to do a lined pocket, so what I do is just sew them right sides together. I take 2 pocket pieces, lay them right sides together, sew all the way around, leaving a little hole for turning, and that's what we're going to do right now. So I'm showing you putting the 2 pieces together. Make sure you leave a hole to turn your fabric. This is just the easiest way to do pockets, in my opinion. It helps you hem them and finish them without having to deal with hemming. Switched camera positions. Just sewing these pockets. There is my little opening that I've left for turning. And now let's do the second pocket. Okay, I'm going to show you the second pocket there. There is the opening, and our pockets are done. I'm going to take them to the cutting table, and I am snipping off corners now. Don't forget to do that. Helps your edges become more crisp, your corners more crisp. And we're going to turn them and make sure those corner points are sharp and look as good as they can. Take them to an iron, hit them with the press, and now I'm going to position them. I'm going to use my mat, the grid on my mat, and then that long ruler to kind of make sure that they are centered with or on the little dress. And then I just pin it down, and it's a little difficult because you only want to pin through one layer of the skirt, but it can be done. Okay, there's my 2 little pockets pinned on. So now let's sew them on. Again, a little bit challenging, but it's possible. So I'm just sewing down one side, turning my work, and then sewing back up the other side. Obviously, try to put your hole, the hole that you made for turning, at the bottom so that you will sew it shut as you're sewing the pocket on. Always remember to backstitch. You do that a couple times actually to reinforce the pocket there at the top for the little girl that will be putting things in her pockets. And there we go. There's the 2 little pockets sewn on. Okay, now we're going to insert the elastic. So your pattern will tell you what size elastic to cut per size, and then you're just going to feed it into the channel. This takes a little bit of time. It's a little time consuming, but it's not too bad because the elastic's really small. What I'm doing now is I'm securing both ends, and then you just kind of want to move your fabric and make sure it's as evenly spaced as possible. Super cute. There's one side. Let me just pause and tell you guys that I forgot to video this step, the step of putting the bias binding on. It's all in your pattern though. It's very
very well explained in the pattern. What I'm showing you right there was how I finished the edges of that bias binding. You just turn it over and make sure it's enclosed. Here I'm showing you that I have double stitched across the top there where the neck and the bias binding are put on, just to give some more stability. Tying those up, and there we go. Easy peasy. A little dress for a little girl somewhere out there in the world that needs it.
And that is how I made my darling little sundress. I'm actually gonna pop up a picture. Addie June tried this on for me. She modeled it, so I've got some cute little pictures of her that I'll pop up in there. Again, very beginner friendly, very, very simple, straight lines, nothing too complicated with this dress. I hope that you will give this pattern a try. If not for Project Dress a Girl, then maybe for a little one in your life. I hope that you are participating though in Project Dress a Girl. Let me know down below. It's been so much fun to chat with you today about my Project Dress a Girl plans. Many more of these little dresses are in my future. I got 2 more cut out right over there on my cutting table ready to go. So I'm gonna have a lot of fun with these through September and October. Okay guys, thank you so much for sticking with me. Give this video a thumbs up and don't forget to comment down below. I will see you in the next video. Take care everyone. Bye-bye.